This video explores the historical and agricultural evolution of wheat. It is not medical advice and does not claim that modern wheat is harmful to everyone.
Look at a slice of modern bread. To you, it's a staple. To the industry, it's a feat of chemical engineering. It is soft, white, and perfectly uniform. It is also a lie. What you are looking at is a biological ghost, a shadow of a plant that once stood 6 feet tall, weathered ice ages, and fueled the rise of the pharaohs. Today, that plant is gone. It didn't die out naturally. It didn't fail to adapt. It was systematically eliminated. Beneath the sprawling monocultures of the Midwest and the vast industrial plains of Europe lies a crime scene. The victim, your health, your self-reliance, and a 10,000-year-old genetic masterpiece. The killer? A boardroom of executives who decided that yield was more important than life. Welcome to the era of the Great Erasure. In the mid-20th century, a movement called the Green Revolution promised to feed the world. They gave us dwarf wheat, a laboratory-born hybrid engineered to be short, stout, and addicted to synthetic chemicals. It was designed for machines, not for humans. Big Ag erased the tall, resilient grains of our ancestors because you can't patent nature. You can't control a seed that survives on its own. To build their empire, they had to destroy the hidden soil. They traded the deep, mineral-rich roots of ancient Emmer and Einkorn for a shallow-rooted, pesticide-hungry mutant that requires a laboratory to survive. Today, 99% of the wheat on Earth comes from just a handful of these industrial strains. We are living in a botanical monopoly. We have traded nutritional sovereignty for a convenient slow-motion health crisis. We've been told that modern wheat is progress. We've been told that the bloating, the inflammation, and the gluten intolerance are just the way things are. But what if the problem isn't wheat? What if the problem is what they did to the wheat? For some people, modern wheat causes no noticeable issues. For others, the difference is undeniable. In this investigation, we are going off the grid. We are digging through the archives of history and the literal dirt of forgotten fields to find the grain Big Ag tried to delete from existence. We're going to show you how to find it, how to grow it, and how to take back your bread. But before we go deeper into the vault of lost seeds, I have a question for you. How many of you have noticed that you can eat bread in Europe or from an heirloom source without getting sick? But the moment you eat a standard supermarket loaf, your body reacts. Tell us your experience in the comments. We need to document the scale of this intolerance before the algorithm hides the truth. This is not just history. This is survival. This is the 3,000-year-old wheat that Big Ag erased. Close your eyes and travel back, not to a world of hunger, but to a world of biological wealth. 8,000 years ago, in the golden crescent of the Levant, a grain was born that would build the world. It was called Emmer. It wasn't a product of a lab. It was a gift from the soil. The ancient Egyptians didn't just eat it, they worshipped it. To them, bread was life, and their wheat stood tall, a shimmering sea of stalks that reached the shoulders of a grown man. This was the grain that fueled the building of the pyramids. It was the farrow that sustained the Roman legions as they marched across continents. A Roman soldier didn't carry a bag of processed flour. He carried a leather pouch of whole Emmer grains. He knew that if he had these seeds, he had strength. He had a weapon against starvation that no winter could break. For millennia, the relationship was sacred. From the monasteries of the Middle Ages, where monks carefully preserved landrace seeds as if they were holy relics, to the peasant farmers of the Fertile Crescent, the seed was the ultimate inheritance. It was passed from father to son, from mother to daughter. It was an unbroken chain of survival. These people didn't need a supply chain. They didn't need a multinational corporation. They had the hidden soil. Why did these ancient peoples prize these grains? Because they were built like fortresses. Ancient wheat varieties like Einkorn and Emmer are hulled wheats. Unlike modern naked wheat that sits exposed to the elements, ancient grains are wrapped in a thick, stony husk. To a modern industrial processor, this husk is a nuisance. It's inefficient. But to a survivalist, that husk is a miracle. It protected the seed from fungi, from pests, and from the rot of a damp season. It meant the grain could sit in a clay jar for a decade and still sprout when it touched the earth. Our ancestors traded speed for security. They knew that nature doesn't rush, and in return, nature gave them a grain that was nearly indestructible. Imagine the smell of a village bakery in the year 1200. The flour wasn't bleached or stripped of its soul. It was ground between two heavy stones, keeping the germ and the oils intact. The bread was dark, dense, and fermented for days. It was a complete protein. It was a medicine. There is a deep, primal nostalgia in our DNA for that scent. A time when bread was actually the staff of life, not a trigger for inflammation. Then came the 19th and 20th centuries. The world began to move faster. The steam engine, the roller mill, and finally, the chemical, laboratory. The betrayal began in the 1950s. The industry looked at these tall, majestic, ancient grains and saw a problem. They were too tall. They took too long to grow. They didn't respond well to the new synthetic nitrogen fertilizers derived from leftover World War II explosives. So, they broke the plant. Through intensive crossbreeding, they created semi-dwarf wheat. They silenced the genes that allowed the plant to grow tall. They stripped away the protective hull to make it easier for machines to process. They shortened the roots, making the plant a permanent slave to irrigation and chemical sprays. In just 40 years, the industry erased a genetic lineage that had survived the fall of Rome, the Black Death, and the Little Ice Age. We traded 10,000 years of resilience for a 400% increase in yield. We filled the silos, but we emptied the grain of its spirit. We replaced the bread of empires with a commodity of the masses. The secret isn't that the ancient wheat died out. The secret is that it was hidden away, pushed into the margins by a system that couldn't figure out how to tax a plant that grows itself. But as we're about to see, the DNA of the ancients is still waiting in the dark. To understand why your body is at war with modern bread, we have to look at the microscopic architecture of the grain itself. This isn't just a debate about gluten. It is a story of genetic complexity and industrial manipulation. In the world of botany, wheat is categorized by its sets of chromosomes. Think of these as the biological instruction manual for the plant. The original wheat, the ancestor we call Einkorn, is diploid. It possesses only 14 chromosomes. A simple, elegant, and ancient blueprint. Its successor, Emmer, is tetraploid, with 28 chromosomes. These are the true ancient wheats, unchanged for millennia. Contrast this with modern bread wheat. It is hexaploid, boasting 42 chromosomes. It is, by all definitions, a biological monster. When the industry hybridized these grains to withstand massive doses of synthetic fertilizer and heavy machinery, they didn't just change the height of the stalk, they fundamentally rewired its chemistry. Modern wheat contains a specific protein called D-genome gliadin. In the industrial food world, this is a miracle superglue that gives store-bought bread its fluffy, pillow-like texture. But for many bodies, it acts as a biological stressor. Our digestive tracts have not evolved to recognize the D-genome. When you consume it, your gut treats it as an invader, triggering a cascade of inflammation that unzips the lining of your intestines. Ancient grains like einkorn lack this D-genome entirely. Their gluten is weak by industrial standards, but for your stomach, that is its greatest strength. It is highly soluble, and the nutrient density is staggering. While modern wheat was bred for starch and sugar, these ancient survivors are packed with lutein for your eyes and zinc for your immune system. Because these plants possess aggressive, deep-reaching root systems, they mine minerals from the subsoil that modern dwarf wheat can't even reach. They are not just food. They are biological fortresses that thrive in low-nitrogen environments. Modern wheat is addicted to oil-based fertilizers. If the supply chain snaps, it dies. But the 3,000-year-old seed remembers how to feed itself from the hidden soil alone. If you are ready to stop being a consumer and start being a steward of this lineage, you must realize that you cannot find this truth in a grocery store. Reclaiming the grain requires a strategy, a return to the old ways of the earth. Your journey begins with a search for the ghost grains. You must bypass the commercial market and seek out true-to-type seeds, Einkorn, Emmer, or Spelt. You are looking for whole berries, or seed-grade heritage grains, the kind found in small-scale organic cooperatives or underground seed-saver exchanges. These are the artifacts of the botanical world, and they are your starting point. Once the seeds are in your hands, the earth requires a different approach. Ancient grains do not want to be pampered. They are the special forces of the plant kingdom. To grow them, embrace the no-till method. Disturring the soil destroys the fungal networks these grains rely on for survival. You plant them in the fall or the early spring, broadcasting the seeds by hand as the Romans once did. And here is the secret: do not fertilize. If you add heavy nitrogen, these stalks will grow too tall and collapse. They prefer the struggle of poor soil. It is where they prove their resilience. As harvest approaches, you will face the challenge that ultimately allowed Big Ag to win: the hull. Unlike modern naked wheat, ancient grains are clothed in a tough, stony husk. This is a nuisance to a factory, but a miracle to a survivalist. That husk has protected the seed from pests, mold, and rot for 3,000 years. To reach the food, you must dehull it yourself using a small-scale mill or a rubber roll sheller. It is extra work, but it is the price of purity. The final transformation happens in the kitchen. You must abandon the commercial, fast-action yeasts designed for industrial labs. To unlock the nutrients within these seeds, you must return to the sourdough starter. The wild bacteria and yeast work in tandem to pre-digest the grain, breaking down phytic acid and making the minerals bioavailable to your blood. The reality is that your yield will be lower than the industrial farmer next door. Your bread will not rise like a supermarket loaf. It will be dense, nutty, and dark. But you are no longer growing a mere commodity. You are growing a biological insurance policy. In a world of collapsing systems, the person with 50 pounds of einkorn in their cellar is the wealthiest person in the room. You are no longer just eating. You are participating in a 10,000-year-old ritual of resistance. The soil beneath your feet is more than just dirt. It is a library of survival, a silent witness to every empire that rose on the back of a grain and every civilization that fell when that grain failed. For the last century, we have been living through a great amnesia. We were told that the industrial way was the only way. We were conditioned to believe that we are weak, that we are dependent, and that we cannot survive without the chemical-soaked machinery of the modern age. But the 3,000-year-old seed tells a different story. When you hold a handful of Einkorn or Emmer, you aren't just holding food, you are holding the ultimate tool of independence. Every time you plant a heritage seed, every time you bake a loaf of bread that hasn't been touched by a lab, you are reclaiming a piece of your humanity that Big Ag tried to buy and sell back to you. You are opting out of a system that benefits from widespread dependency and thrives on your ignorance. True freedom isn't found in a grocery store aisle. It is found in the deep, uncorrupted roots of a plant that doesn't need a patent to exist. It is found in the autonomy of a kitchen that smells like fermented grain and wood smoke. We are at a crossroads in history where progress has led us into a desert of nutritional scarcity. To move forward, we must look backward. We must become the curators of the hidden soil. This isn't just about wheat. This is about who owns your health, who owns your future, and who owns the very building blocks of life. The corporations want a world of short stalks and high yields, a world that is easy to control, easy to poison, and easy to monopolize. We choose the tall stalks. We choose the hard husks. We choose the grain that remembers how to be free. If you can feel the weight of this history, if you can hear the call to return to a more resilient way of living, then you are already part of the resistance. We are building a community of people who refuse to be fed lies. We are digging deep, uncovering the secrets that were meant to stay buried and proving that the old ways are the only way to a sustainable future. If you are ready to stop being a casualty of industrial food and start being a steward of the earth, join us. Subscribe to Hidden Soil and become part of this movement. Every subscriber is another voice in the choir of those reclaiming their sovereignty. We are more than a channel. We are a seed bank of forbidden knowledge. But the grain is only the beginning. A seed is only as strong as the world it inhabits. If you want to understand how to prepare your land to receive these ancient giants, if you want to know how to turn depleted, grey dirt into a thriving ecosystem of dark, living carbon, you need to see what we found in our next investigation. Watch our next video on the Black Gold Protocol, how to regenerate dead soil in one season. Your ancestors knew these secrets. It's time you did too. Take back the seed. Take back your life. We'll see you in the next field.